morning, everyone, esteemed members on the dais and the audience and also the organizing committee. I'll thank you for organizing this and inviting us here. I think the context has already been set by Shri Negi. How green energy is reshaping our reality today. And I look mainly at the power distribution sector from a systems perspective as to what is the requirement of the system. And what we have been doing in distribution for the last 20, 25 years was mainly access creation, ensuring that there is energy for all. I mean, once that was ensured, the focus was on quality energy or, non-intermittent or continuous supply of energy, better automation, installing SCADA system or, DMS systems so that we are able to manage outages better, we are able to switch it, and there is no time lag in. So these were the major factors that were, the issues of distribution sector. However, in the last 3-4 years, there has been a major change. While renewable energy since 2015 has becoming a part of the overall energy pie and it has been increasing, it was mainly led by large energy, large solar parks, and it was mainly a transmission reliant network where you have to bring more transmission access. But in the last 3-4 years, there has been an uptake in PM Kusum there, and last year after PM Suryaghar, suddenly we have a situation where the consumer is also producing power, and how to factor in this power, how to do the load forecast for that particular area, that feeder, that has suddenly become very important. That's mainly from a distribution perspective. Overall, as pointed out by Sunigi also, coal is 56% of installed capacity. However, it serves around 70% of our current needs. This is not, likely to go away very quickly, but the steps that we have been taking in terms of RPO obligations for industries, RPO obligations for discoms, they are bearing fruits, and everyone is, at least there is a major plan to where to get their solar, renewable energy, which is mainly solar these days. However, what we have also realized with the performance and exchange in the last couple of days that it cannot be solar alone. So everyone understands that there cannot be plain solar. Probably in a year or a couple of months, plain solar will no longer be the viable tendering mode or the contract mode. It will only be with some kind of storage system. There again, we'll have to see, because battery itself is having a moment. In the last 3-4 years, the prices have been going down. And how long this, so a lot of contracts are also built with the expectation, with a price expectation of prices going down in the next 1 year, 2 years. So if that momentum continues, it will be easy for these contracts to be executed. At the same time, we also have to keep looking for pump storage, whether, open loop, closed loop, because battery energy has its own limitations in terms of tenure. So if you need night power, if you need good quality night power, probably a lot of industries should also start looking at captive pump storage. Besides, at the overall grid level, obviously, discoms are looking at pump storage also. But it's up to industries also, because what has also happened is in the last couple of years with green open access and the general open access, a lot of industries are also doing their own energy budgeting and how do they get power. So while they're providing for their own daytime power, probably it's a good time to start thinking about the other timings as well. So this has already started happening. A lot of commercial PPAs now have an element of BESS also. So I think that part is also being taken care of. For the grids, the other challenge or the opportunity that also comes is what is coming from mobility to this side. As was mentioned, electric vehicles, PME bus seva. So there is a fair amount of success. I think there is still some challenge in terms of whether the charging infra should come first or the vehicle should come first. The same problem was also there in CNG, CBG also in many of the states where, when you have the vehicles, only then the pump becomes viable. So it is up to the government to provide some kind of support for the initial setup for charging stations, for all kind of alternate fuels. Biofuels are already a part of the mix there. So we see, from all sides, there is a general attempt at greening. So now that this additional power demand, and these are concentrated power demands, that suddenly come up on the grid when you have an electric vehicle. When 20 people buy an electric vehicle in a society, suddenly the DT that is serving them is no longer. And how do you do the charge management? Because it will be underutilized and overutilized by turns. People will have very similar charging patterns. So, the kind of time of day tariffs that we have right now prescribed, whether they will suffice for this or whether, they don't provide incentive/penalty enough for some kind of consumer behavior modification. Because otherwise, the challenge we are going to face is there will be overload on the grid in the mornings and the evenings, which are the off-office hours. In the office hours only where, an office has charging space probably to the tune of charging spaces that will be taken up, but the home or the society charging spaces might be left empty. Probably in a STA, the State Transport Authority can manage it better with more heavy-duty chargers and a scheduling, charging schedule where you have your buses. But then, that is one user is doing everything, so probably some planning can be done there, because it will be pointless to install capacity which is in excess of what is actually required. The moment the minute you commit to some kind of capacity, the distribution, there is an upstream capacity requirement in transmission also. So, and again, for all these things, the required automation or the required network mapping, I think that is something that is sorely lacking, because we have been pushing states, pushing DISCOMs to get more technology, more automation. So proper GIS mapping of their networks, continuous upgrades, because these are, while these are not very visible factors when you are trying to install a electric vehicle charging station or when you are trying to do something new. But if the DISCOM does not have it, it loses the ability to ensure that it is able to, probably the DISCOM has spare capacity, but there is no realization, and as a result, things get stuck in process. So mapping and also the continuous updating, because, if there is a good CAPEX inflow, at times you are able to do the mapping. And if there is no FMS, there is no facility management with the vendor, and the vendor walks out of the project after 2 years, 3 years, so the updation stops. So either the DISCOM should be able to develop a team in meanwhile, or these projects should be longer. The facility management should be longer. So in all our current projects, be it the new SCADA systems or DMS systems, we have prescribed for a 5-year, now even 7-year facility management, so that there is continuity of efforts. Also in the smart metering space, AMISPs also, we have 10-year tenure, 27 months plus 93 months, total of 120 months. So we see these long-term TOTEX models to be the right models. They have also been able to bring down prices, but just as important as lower prices, it's important that continuity of services is there, which these models ensure. So that is the overall attempt, and smart meter is another piece that is going to be very important for green energy adoption, because when a consumer is able to see the energy flows in real time, that is going to have an impact, and that is going to be a push factor also for many consumers to go for greener solutions. And it cannot be greening at any one point. It cannot be in the automobile sector alone. It cannot be at the grid level alone. It has to be at every single level. So there can be larger battery banks at the grid level, but at the same time, you'll also need local solutions. So probably at feeder level also, you'll need smaller batteries. So probably, the only question is, if we install too much capacity too soon at too many places, there might be stranded capacity. Something that happened in coal also in 2014, and there was a cycle. A lot of people will be aware, financiers got burnt, promoters got burnt in that. So, overall, there should be some kind of holistic vision between transport sector, between energy sector, as to what we are doing, so that there is, no concentration of investment in one sector where a couple of years. So, however, most of these, from the promoter perspective at least, most of the contracts that are now coming out are gross cost contracts, where there is a short revenue horizon. So, that kind of is comforting for the financier also. So in terms of commercial models, I think in the last decade there has been an improvement. And for the state utility or the state transport authority also, there is no immediate outgo of cash. So the problem of having liquidity or paying for EPC is not really there. Also, besides that, the quality assurance and the continuity of supply maintained by service level agreements, these things are available now. So these are, then you have green hydrogen coming in, the viability of green hydrogen, the price points that they'll come to, that will also be largely dependent on how quickly or how cheaply can we produce solar energy, because that is going to be the fuel of choice for a lot of these. We also have other major major concentration centers coming up, like we have a couple of fabs planned. So wherever you have these process industries, especially a fab coming up, there'll be a supply requirement of N-1, N-2. How do cities manage that? How do DISCOMs manage that? Data centers are coming up. So just like STA charging stations, data centers will also take up a lot of load. And what will be their choices, whether they'll be able to do a lot of captive supply, or they'll also be, I think the choice will be between captive supply and also having a line of DISCOM supply, because you cannot risk any kind of outages in these processes. So now we have, what has also changed in the last 10, 15 years, that energy as a product is, or it's a, it's no longer something that you cannot do 24/7. The expectation is for to be 24/7, and unplanned outages should be history now, the way things are. In major cities, if there is unplanned outage, I think there'll be I mean, there is no possibility now. So I think DISCOMs have also changed in that manner. They realize that there cannot be unplanned outages and they plan things well. And I mean, most of the network is, in the larger cities is already N-1. Critical load should be N-2, be it hospitals, be it some kind. From the carbon side, I mean, thermal, because it continues being there, there has been a debate about FGD. I mean, we'll not really go into there because that is settled and unsettled at some point. But then carbon capture, I mean, as of now, I mean, it's too expensive and it might not be the right solution. But the best bet is obviously bringing coal down as a percentage of our overall energy pie. While coal continues being base load, so you cannot immediately do away with that. But with the way economics is working in green energy, I think more than just climate alone, I mean, of course, I mean, it's very important for climate, and the 1.5-degree target that we have is already, I mean, probably a bigger challenge now. But at the same time, it's a good confluence that the economics is also working in favor of environment now. So nowadays, a new project. So the problem that we have is, I mean, for the older contracts, we are still stuck with 25-year PPAs where you cannot really walk out of that, and when you add the fixed cost and the new variable cost, probably that is not viable. But I mean, as of now, obviously green energy is much more viable. The only thing is the temporality of green energy or the duration of green energy has to be, because wind has a season while solar has a daily routine. So how best to, I mean, there has been innovations and there are efficiencies. We are seeing, I mean, there is efficiency in every sector. In every byproduct, I mean, that was a waste of previous processes in sugarcane. Everything is now being used. And that has kind of also given a viability, financial viability to all these sectors. So I mean, in sugar industry, probably the byproducts just bring you the margins or the money that is required to the process going for the main sugar production also. Much of it has happened because of biofuels also. So I think the efficiencies are improving everywhere. The dead weight that was there in the system because of loss of byproducts, which are effectively energy only. There was wasted energy. So the processes are able to trap more and more energy. Solar panels also, I think there is continuous innovation in terms of capacity utilization, and thermal plants, which were, I mean, there was a poor cycle in 2014 to 2019. Post-COVID, that scenario has also changed because whatever, I mean, was stuck with the financiers because of, suddenly because of the uptick in energy demand and overall requirement, they also became financially viable in a sense. All the stressed assets have been by and large resolved. So in terms of financing also, the sector is, I mean, the financiers are comfortable in that sense that the books don't have a lot of issues, and green energy financing is obviously a primary goal for most of the sector financiers, including PFC. And the processes for green energy are obviously faster than conventional energy. The products are more standardized now with the nature of contracts. So overall, I mean, at a system level, I mean, there might be project level challenges, but at a system level, there are no financing challenges. There are various other sources. I mean, there are a lot of funds, pension funds. I mean, people are ready to fund into green energy. So I think time is good for any entrepreneur entering into this sector now in the next couple of years. I mean, these are good times, but one has to be mindful of the kind of changes that are happening there. Because, I mean, if you are invested into a solar, I mean, pure solar project, probably 6 months or 1 year down the line, it might not be the best project line that you are doing. So your financials or your modeling, if it is not done against a fixed revenue horizon, and you are suddenly, I mean, exposed to the market in this situation, that can be a big challenge. So, I mean, it is important that people entering this sector should be, I mean, I'm sure, I mean, people are already doing these. But I mean, because of the actual change of pace, which is much faster. So somebody who was planning a thermal station 20 years back did not face these kind of challenges in terms of shifting technologies. Here, the technology shift is very quick. The financial models will change very quickly, every 2 years, 3 years. I mean, that is the kind of timeline we are looking at. So one has to ensure that you are in the beginning of the cycle rather than the end of the cycle where a project is likely to get caught. So my best wishes to all participants who are thinking of actively promoting, collaborating in the overall efforts of greening of the country. I mean, it is much required, and it requires wider public participation beyond government, obviously, and it's private entrepreneurship and efforts of, I mean, millions of people that is going to bring the greening of our overall system, greening of our grids to life. I thank Harit, Urja for organizing this conference, and Negi ji and his team, my best wishes. Thank you.